Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of e-commerce with John. This is episode 40. It's a lovely Saturday afternoon here on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. And we got a good fun one for you today. I'm joined by, it's nice to be joined actually by a fellow Australian. I don't get many of those on this show so far. Blake Sterling. Blake's a good friend. And he has a really interesting story, which includes being a high-ticket dropshipper like myself and many of you listening. But more interestingly, I think, is that he has a long career behind him as a copywriter, including a fairly hefty stint with Agora, who many of you, that's a name most people who are in the online space will probably recognize. They're one of the world's largest, direct response marketing companies. I think their revenues are somewhere around $1 billion a year or something like that for their whole business. And Blake spent a period of time very successfully copywriting there in a number of years. His copywriting produced over $12 million in sales. And so we're going to have a chat today about a bunch of stuff, but including how you can use or how you can sell more products with some great copywriting strategies and tactics. Blake, welcome.
John, thank you very much for the intro.
Good to have you here, mate.
Oh, good to be on, mate. Good to be on. Looking forward to it. Really excited.
Yeah, awesome, dude. Awesome. So, hey, I was actually thinking before I jumped on. I was thinking, obviously, I mean, we've known each other for the time that you've been involved, you know, as a high-ticket dropshipping business owner in e-commerce. And I know all about your journey there and that sort of thing because, you know, we've been talking sort of throughout that period. But I realized I've never actually known how you got into copywriting.
Yeah,
well,
look,
it's a fairly random thing to get into, you know what I mean? Like, and I realized I know you've been a copywriter for years and years and years, but I don't think I'd ever asked you, how did you actually land on that as your thing?
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny story. I kind of fell into it, to be honest. I was working for a company that was involved in share market education. And the owners of that business, they were fairly business savvy, but when it came to marketing, their marketing was pretty bad. And I basically looked at what they were sort of doing and thought I might be able to do a bit better of a job, and started doing a heap of research, reading a heap of different marketing books and a heap of different copy books. That's how I sort of first started getting into copy, and was basically helping them with sales letters and landing pages and Google ads and things like that. And then from there, kind of progressed into seeking out an actual copy mentor, found one, did a heap of courses, and then from there, basically wrote sort of copy for a while as a bit of a sort of a freelancer almost, but was still working for this other company. And then one day I just saw this ad from Agora Australia, and it was basically write a sales letter about, I think it was like selling men's suits or something, like, here's a men's suit, like sell me this suit. So I wrote this sales letter, sent it off. Literally that same day, got a call back from the boss there. And he said, really impressed by this sales letter. I want you to come in and have a chat. Had a chat. And sort of was there for about 6 years writing copy for those guys. And like you said before, over that time, made them quite a bit of money. And I think, it was between 2016 and 2019, the copy that I wrote for Agora Australia was responsible for $12.5 million in sales of sort of high ticket products, because they've got sort of, $2 and $3 grand products and also $50, $60 to $100 products as well. Was there for quite a while, and that's kind of how I got into copy.
Yeah. Okay. So sort of something you fell into. It's funny how that happened. Eh? Like, the same thing happened to me with, working with a lot of people on, say, Google Ads, and providing a service which turned into a business around ads management for a number of years. I just started off running my own Google Ads and found that I really enjoyed it, and then other people started asking me to do it, and I kind of just fell into it. So I think that's sometimes it's one of the exciting things about being involved in the broad sort of online business, digital marketing landscape, is that sometimes you can go in directions that you didn't really plan to go in originally.
Totally, yeah, totally. And then that's kind of what happened to me. I just I never set out to be a marketer or a copywriter or anything like that. I kind of fell into it and just went with it. And a few years later was working at the much revered Agora, which is generally a pretty hard place to get into as a copywriter. They've only got a very small team, and you've really got to know your stuff for them to bring you on board. So yeah, it was a really good time. It was a really good time running
cool. So for guys, I mean, we've mentioned that name a few times, and I kind of alluded to who they are, but for people who somehow have been in the online business landscape and haven't heard of Agora, what is it? Because I mean, it's run by some pretty or it's owned, I understand, by some pretty big marketing legends.
Yeah, so it's owned by the guy who kickstarted the whole lot was Bill Bonner. Some people may recognise that name. Bill basically started Agora in the 70s, out of I think in the Bronx in New York or something, out of this, shady little office in the Bronx, and has basically grown it into a multi-billion-dollar empire. They basically sell financial share tipping newsletters and also health products via direct response copy. And they're very, very, very good at what they do. I think now they're pretty much in every country around the world, and they've got offices everywhere. Basically, there's actually a section in Baltimore where pretty much a whole strip of offices is owned by Agora. One sort of block is just owned by Agora. It's all different Agora companies and affiliates and things like that. But they're when it comes to direct response, these guys are like the behemoth in the industry. There's no one that comes close to Agora.
Yeah, cool. And when you say direct response, because once again, I mean, most people kind of have a gist of what copywriting is. What do you mean by direct response?
So direct response, basically, what the sort of term implies is that you're looking for a response right there and then. So, for example, you might go to, say, I don't know, kmart.com.au and you'll see a T-shirt, and it's just basically very nondescript copy. Here's a man's T-shirt, and here's the price. Direct response copy is basically all about persuasion and emotionally pushing someone in a direction to make a buying decision right there and then. So I'm sure people have seen, they're all over the internet, and I'm sure everyone watching this now has seen a sales letter before, like a 30, 40, 50-page sales letter. And at the end of it, it's basically asking you to buy now. So direct response, that's where that sort of name comes from, is that they're looking for a response right there and then to actually make that buying choice when you're reading that particular sales letter. So it's very different from normal everyday copy, because again, it's very emotionally driven. It's very much about pressing those hot buttons for someone to actually make that buying choice right there and then.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I think it does. I think that's a pretty good explanation. And I think that's definitely the difference. And I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I probably have my own views on this, but I think, kind of in a sense, that's what I know as copywriting. Like, if I see product descriptions and things like that on e-commerce sites, that is just a kind of a description of the product and no call to action or anything like that, to me, that's not even copy. That's just content, right?
Content,
so
yeah.
There's a difference between content writing and copywriting. I think a lot of people kind of confuse the two. You know what I mean?
Yeah, correct.
But I think good copywriting, as you're describing, I mean, as one of your conversion rate optimization tools in a toolbox, if you like, I mean, it's a really strong one that I think is very underappreciated, or maybe not even really known by a lot of particularly small to medium-sized e-commerce business owners.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely something that's
e-commerce businesses, I think, at this point.
it's definitely overlooked by a lot of people. From what I sort of see, just being involved in the community and sort of having been involved with sort of drop shipping now for a good few years. Look, a lot of the sort of stores that I see, it's like supplier, like, people get supplier copy for like their demo store when they're launching, and they basically don't change it. They might change a few sort of words here and there, but that's about it, which is obviously a big mistake, because copy is very much about, again, driving someone to that buying decision right there and then. And that's what we're sort of looking to do when we're selling high ticket stuff online, is that for the most part, look, we're not going to get everyone right there and then. But I think copy definitely does a lot of the heavy lifting. If you write quality copy that shows someone why this product is perfect for them and why they should actually buy from you, it goes a long way to actually just increasing your conversion rate massively. Yeah,
totally. And I think you're already seeing that in your own business, which is a good segue. So of course, you're an awesome copywriter, but for especially relevant for this, this show is, of course, you're an e-commerce business owner, which is a more recent thing for you. And once again, probably a bit of a shift. So you've gone from copywriting to, the world of e-commerce. How did that happen?
Look, so I've always, I've actually been selling stuff online for a long time, mainly via eBay. So right. I'm talking about going back about 15 years ago. I had like a car. I had a car parts business. I was basically importing Japanese car parts, exhausts, turbos, things like that, and selling them via eBay. Cool. And basically did that for a long, long time. So the high ticket drop shipping and having my own website is definitely a new thing for me. But physically selling gear online, I've been doing that for quite a long time. So basically, how I got into that is again, I sort of going back years and years and years ago, was really into sort of my sort of Japanese drifting. Like, this is when, like, I'm sure people know about drifting. You're like sliding a car around a track. It was when drifting sort of first hit Australia, and that was obviously a pretty big niche, and found there was a lot of demand for those kinds of that kind of gear, and basically started importing some stuff from China and selling it on eBay, and that's how I sort of got into that. I'm just going to plug my laptop in. Sorry, I'm just going to duck my head down.
Man.
Getting a little on battery.
Yeah, cool. So your first website of your own, I think, from memory, it's been live like a little bit over a year. Have I got that right?
Yeah, so I launched in November 2019. So we're just over a year, and it's going gangbusters now. The last 90 days, I've sold $250,000 worth of products. So it's been, it's gone crazy. The last couple of months of 2020 were pretty huge. Sort of October, November, December were just massive months for the business, which is great. And just kicking some big goals of that one. And it's still growing. Like, it's the niche that I'm in is a really fast growing niche. Did really well during COVID, which a lot of high ticket dropshippers did as well during COVID. But it's a very fast growing niche, a very fast growing industry, and we're doing really well. And it's literally growing by the day. So that's the first one. And sort of I know we'll talk a bit more about this sort of later in our chat, but I'm looking to launch 2 more stores this year. So it's we're going really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's been great to watch along with your journey thus far. And so I'm curious, a lot of people listening to this will be sort of probably either at around the same stage of you with the high ticket dropshipping business or earlier in the piece, right? They're getting started. They're just getting the ball rolling and maybe just trying to make their first sales and that sort of thing. And I wanted to ask you a question because I guess your experience from start to where you are now is still a fairly fresh and recent thing for you. Whereas if I try to think about when I started, it's all just kind of like, like trying to remember when I was 5 again or something like that. It's just like, like I've kind of tried to delete it from my memory sort of thing. But now, what do you know or think or understand now that you wish you knew in the beginning? Like, what are just a few points that, when you were first going into the dropshipping thing I'm talking about, not necessarily the earlier eBay stuff, but you're more recent stuff with having your own website and managing the whole piece, kind of, what do you wish you knew? Or I've put that slightly a little way, maybe even, what would you tell somebody who's just getting started with it that maybe people aren't telling them regularly?
Look, I think the first one is definitely believe in the system. I know we tend to sort of migrate from like dropship lifestyle to, and I know you're involved with a lot of people with BSGR and kind of what you do. I think definitely believe in the actual system. Quick sort of side note. So when I actually bought Dropship Lifestyle back in 2016, and I'm one of those people who bought it and literally did nothing with it. So I bought it, looked into it, and went, "Oh no, I don't think this is really going to work for me." Or I sort of made notes on a couple of niches and couldn't find any suppliers, and just basically thought, "Nah, this isn't for me." And then in 2018, I was actually away on my honeymoon with my wife, and we were with our kids in Bali. And at that time, unfortunately, at Agora, there was a bit of legal trouble going on. The ex-CEO was up to some pretty shady stuff, and was sort of embroiled in a sort of legal fight. I had to get hire lawyers, and it was a pretty stressful, painful time. And this is kind of all happening on my honeymoon as well. And I remember on the way home, we were on the plane. And I think I was watching like Creed 2 or something. And like I said, I was really stressed out, and I made this promise to myself. I said, I don't care how long it takes or what I have to do. I'm just overworking for someone else, being under the influence of someone else, and having to work 9 to 5. I don't care what it takes. Whatever I've got to do, I'm going to launch my own business and just basically grow that into a business that's going to support me and the family. Long story short, got back, opened up DSL again, and then kind of went from there. And that's when I launched my first store in 2019. And we're kind of, here we are now. So the point to that whole story is that is basically believe in the system, because it does work. I know you see it all the time, John. I see it all the time when we're in the sort of Facebook groups of, Dropship Lifestyle Australia, or your group, or the US-based group on Facebook. You see these people sort of come in and they're sort of saying, how do I find suppliers? And I can't do this, and it's all too hard. And yes, it definitely does take work, but the point I'm trying to make here is that the system does work. I think a lot of Aussies tend to get taken aback a little bit when they get started thinking that it doesn't apply to Australia, or it doesn't work in Australia. And I can assure everyone watching, I know there's probably a couple of Aussies out there, that it definitely does work in Australia. I know 6 or 7 different people that are very successful at high ticket drop shipping that are Aussies and have Aussie-based stores. So the first point is definitely believe that the system works. Yes, it is hard work. Yes, it will take your time, but just get stuck in and just keep doing it. Probably the other point to that is don't try and be a perfectionist. I know when I was launching my store, I don't know if you remember, John, but I think I delayed my launch like 3 or 4 months. Like I was like, yeah, I'm going to launch this month, and then I'm going to launch this month. But I was just back and forth trying to perfect this store, whether it was copy or whether it was like an image didn't look right, or I literally took 3 or 4 months of just like stuffing around with this thing to try and get it perfect. And in the end, like looking back on it now in terms of, then calling suppliers and doing all that fiddling just did not matter at all. It was just a waste of time. So my other tip is to just get the store to that 80% mark and just launch it. Don't worry too much about the copy. Don't worry too much about the images, because all the store is there for is just to demonstrate to a supplier that you're serious about your business, and that you're basically displaying how kind of their products are going to look. And that's all it's there for. So just basically get it set up, get it to 80%, load those core 20 or 30 products or whatever it might be, and just launch the damn thing. Don't stuff around with it.
Yeah, totally. Oh, mate, I can remember being on mastermind calls with you and giving you constant crap for that 3 or 4 months. Get your store launched. Get your store launched. I can remember, but you did, and of course, the rest to date is history. And I think that's an important point. I think it's very important when you're first building your business that you build and keep momentum, right? Even if you're just making small steps every day, it's really important that you keep moving forward. That makes the whole process seem a lot more successful for you. It can help keep your mindset positive if you can constantly feel like you're taking those steps forward and forward and forward. Whereas, if you sit there thinking about, oh, is my site good enough or not, or whatever, it just kills that momentum. And when you stop like that for too long, then the longer you stop and lose momentum, the more prone you are to second guessing what you're doing, and that then descends into kind of like a spiral that it gets tougher and tougher to get out of. So I'd second that, definitely. The optimization, the making things, you never want to be perfect, right? You never want to strive for perfection, but the optimization of your site comes as you grow, right? It doesn't need to all happen before you launch, because the reality is when you're first starting your business, you know next to nothing about e-commerce. You don't actually really know how to optimize your site properly. You don't know what your customers want yet. You don't know how they're going to react to things on your site. And often people spend a lot of time trying to really fine-tune things without having any data to fine-tune it based on, right? And so the most important thing you can do when you're building your business is to, get your website built, get products on it, but then launch it and make your first sale. Like, get some traffic, make your first sale, and then sit back and start going, okay, so what's going on here on my site? What feedback am I getting from customers when they maybe call up or email in or online chat me, and what does that mean I need to do for my site? So I think that's a really good point, for sure. Yeah,
totally. So, like I said, it's just about getting it there, getting it done, listening to your customers as well. I know that with my store, as you know, I kind of pivoted in terms of the overall niche, because the feedback that I was getting from customers was, the feedback was basically what they were showing me with their dollars. All the sales I was getting was for one particular section of my initial niche, or one part of my initial niche, or one vertical, whatever you want to call it. And I sort of basically then quickly realized that I was going to go in that direction for that particular vertical, and sort of quickly, basically started loading products based on that, purely because all the sales I was making, all the emails I was getting, all the feedback I was getting was all about that one particular vertical, and sort of pivoted across towards that particular place. And like I said, here we kind of are now, and we're just kicking massive goals. So
I think that's a great example of that. And even after you've, because I think when you set up that sort of business, you're going to be following a set process, and that's important. That's the easiest way to get something started is to, kind of follow in the footsteps of what somebody else has done before. You're essentially modeling somebody else's practice, but you still have to retain the flexibility to change things. Like, you can't get you don't want to get locked into that. And so I think your experience there is a great example, is that often you think you've done, you're on the right track when you first launch because you followed the process and you did exactly what people told you, and then you launch and maybe not everything you're doing is working. And a lot of people, I think, at that point kind of go, oh, the whole thing doesn't work. And, I'm going to pack it in, I'm going to quit, and go and do the next shiny thing that catches my attention. And I think where a lot of the most successful people in this space is that they're flexible and they're ready to change that direction when they see the signal to, not to assume it doesn't work, but to sort of say, oh, actually, what I need to do is not quit, but just maybe I need to change this up, or go in this direction, or make a different course in my path. So,
spot on.
Cool as. So when you started, or when you were building your high-ticket dropshipping business, I mean, obviously you're still working, Were you still working full time at that point? I think you were, weren't you? Pretty much.
Yeah. I'm still sort of working. I'm doing 9 to 5 now. It's the goal is to give that away sometime, hopefully this year. But yeah, I'm still sort of working 9 to 5, and got a young family and doing all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah,
so
you've got 2 kids, don't you? 2 younger children. Look, and the reality is that's where most people start. I mean, that's where I started as well, full-time job, 50, 60 hours a week or something like that. And how do you do it?
Look,
honestly, I think about it and I think, holy crap, it's bananas. I mean, if I was 23 and single again, it must feel like a piece of cake. But I mean, have you found any particular things that you do or any sort of strategies you employed to help you, manage your business, which is growing, as well as your family and your full-time job, which is kind of a career and something you're good at? How does that all come together for you?
Well, I think it goes back firstly to the motivation side of things. You've obviously got to have that motivation to really get stuck into this thing and get it working. It's all about managing your time. Yeah, I'm really busy. Again, got a young family, got 2 young kids. My daughter's just turned 5 and my son is 2. And obviously working 9 to 5. So you really need to make time for this. And what I mean by that is there's sacrifices that have to be made. So I'm normally up at like 3:45, 4 in the morning. I'll go to the gym, which is sort of good thinking time as well, to sort of think about, kind of what's going on with the business. And, I think also keeping physically fit is good for you as well. But then I'll normally spend a good sort of 2-3 hours in the morning working on the business, whether it's writing collection copy or whether it's chatting with my virtual assistant, or not chatting with her, but giving her tasks for that particular day. Whether it's looking into new niche ideas or maybe covering off a couple of customer emails from the prior day or something like that. So to really make this thing work, you've got to have that time. And so, I basically had to go from, say, getting up at, 8 in the morning or 8:30 or whatever it is, just, like half an hour before I had to start work, to literally winding back the clock and setting the alarm clock to 3:45, 4 in the morning. And it does take time to get used to that. Obviously, your body has to get used to waking up a lot earlier. But that's basically the only way I could fit this in, because even at night, like say I finish at 5 p.m. or something like that, with 2 young kids, that's like dinner time, bath time, and all that kind of stuff. So I can't just, dump that on my wife and say, well, you've got to get all this organized. And if I tried to, she'd kill me anyway. So it's basically, there's just no time for me in the evening to get it done. Maybe half an hour if I'm lucky. So I knew I'd have to make that time up in the morning, and that's basically what I do. And that's kind of how I've got on top of building a website, writing copy for it, loading images, getting all that sort of stuff done. That was literally, me getting up as early as I possibly could and getting it done. And I mean, I know when I was still at Agora, because I was at Agora when I was launching this first store, I had my sort of key fob. I could basically go into the offices whenever I wanted to. And I would literally be there at like 5:30 in the morning or 5 in the morning and put in, again, 2 or 3 hours before I had to start work. So if you are working a full-time job, it is about making sacrifices, but it's just knowing that this thing does work. If you follow that system, like we were saying before, it can definitely work for you. But there's definitely some hard yards that you're going to have to put in to really get it up to kind of where I'm at now and build that successful store. It definitely takes hard work. It's not one of those sort of shiny bullets that everyone chases, this get rich quick kind of thing. Dropshipping is definitely not a get rich quick. I know some people in the industry make it seem like that.
Come on, wait. Are you telling me that you're not really in Thailand on a tropical island drinking cocktails while you make all this money, Blake?
That's right. And only working half an hour a week and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Man. Where's the income, hey?
Exactly right. Exactly right. Where is that passive income? But yeah, look, it takes hard work. Like, you know it, I know it. All the guys that, you know, I'm in like a couple of different masterminds, and everyone that I know that does this stuff puts in the hard yards, puts in the hours to get this stuff off the ground and get it working right.
Yeah, totally. And that, absolutely tallies with my experience. You know, I mean, I've been doing this for a bit longer, but yeah, I mean, when I launched my first business, my first e-commerce business, it was, I'd be up 4:35 in the morning, working straight on it before going to work. You know, coming home, spending a bit of time with the family after they go to bed. I'd be up till 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, crack out a bit of sleep, not enough. I know now these days. You know, it was like that every day. Like, I would do that every day for months until I got to the point where I could sort of dial that back. And it's important to note that, I think, when we talk about this stuff, it's important to say that, you know, I'm not a fan of the hustle harder mentality, because that tends to lead down the rabbit hole of, if you do that all the time, it's actually unhealthy. So there's kind of, you know, yes, you should do it, but you've got to view it as you're doing that in you know, that's just a part of the journey. The journey should never turn into that. If you find yourself going years and years where you're working those sort of hours, you know, if you go full time with your business, I think maybe for some people that works, but in my experience with a lot of the people I've spoken to, it just doesn't work, and it ends up becoming actually a very big, you know, I guess, roadblock on your progress.
Yeah, it does. I totally agree. I think you've definitely got to, like I said, make time for it. But yeah, you definitely can't sort of burn the candle at both ends, so to speak. You've got to give yourself some time, and that's why I tend not to work too late at night. I'm tempted to sometimes, but I just know that myself and the way kind of I am, that if I don't get like at least a good sort of 6 hours sleep, I'm just going to be crap the next day anyway. So there's just no point. So it's definitely getting up early in the morning, putting in those first sort of few hours of getting stuff done, and then, you know, getting to bed pretty early and waking up and kind of doing the whole lot all over again. But yeah, that's kind of how I've sort of got to where I am now, and that's the kind of sacrifices that you have to make, I think, to get this thing off the ground. Because again, it's not a get rich quick thing at all. And people
so
need to know.
How do you? I mean, like, I've got certain, I guess, yeah, because that's a lot to deal with, right? I mean, saying you're going to make those sacrifices, you know, and you're going to change your life, and in the beginning, at least, you don't know how long that's going to be for, right? Because if you're saying, look, I'm just going to do what it takes until, you know, I get to whatever my measure of success is, or, you know, at least the first step up that, you know, that ladder of success, if you like. I mean, that's a lot to deal with, and that can be a tough thing to deal with at times, particularly if it's, you know, if you're not making the progress you'd like. I know I have a series of kind of mental strategies for dealing with that to keep myself on that track. How do you do it? Like, for you, like, is there anything, you know, I mean, this might happen subconsciously for you, I don't know, but like, how do you reconcile that with yourself?
Look, so a couple of things for me. I'm naturally, I'm a very, I wouldn't say very, I tend to be a little bit disorganized sometimes. So basically, I've learned just through habit of actually, I have this Excel spreadsheet I call the ultimate organizer, which is basically, I lay out my sort of longer term goals, you know, over a multi-year sort of point or time frame, and I sort of break that down into yearly, quarterly, weekly tasks, and then daily tasks as well. So I think that personally helps me a lot, because I then know, you know, when I wake up for the day, I'm not just trying to scramble of like, oh, what do I have to work on? What do I do here? I'm very organized, that I wake up and know, okay, today I've got to work on these 3 particular tasks. And I try and keep it to just having like 3 main tasks that I cover off, whether that's, say, writing a new collection copy, or it might be, you know, load these 5 new products to the website, or whatever it might be. So I've got that organizer sort of spreadsheet there that I rely on quite heavily to sort of know where I'm at. And people may be different. Just for me, it makes me feel I can sort of take a bit of a breath because I know what I've got to do. Everything's laid out for me. There's no sort of stress. As soon as I wake up, I know I've got to do A, B, and C. And I know that these are the tasks that I've got to achieve for the week based on these daily tasks. So I kind of know where everything's at. I also meditate quite a lot as well to sort of just calm that sort of head talk. When you're working 9 to 5, when you're running a business, when you've got a young family, there's a lot of stuff going on inside your head, and a lot of stuff comes up. So I just find meditation kind of, gets just sort of calms that sort of head speak, so to speak, and just helps me sort of get in that mode of being able to, I think, just approach sort of life in that calm manner where I'm just not frazzled or I'm not all over the shop. So those are sort of the two main things for me, is, again, having that organizer and meditating. And I think it's also taking time out for yourself. So for me, Sunday's the day where I don't do any business work or anything like that. It's like the sort of family day to just chill out. Because I found that when I was kind of doing a lot of stuff 7 days a week, I'd get burnt out. And by being burnt out, I mean I would literally like work myself sick. And I've done that a few times where, it'd be summer and I've got like a cold, and it's like, how the hell did I get a cold or the flu? That's because I was working so hard, like I was just basically just draining myself. Yeah. So I think those sort of three things, taking that at least that 1 day a week for yourself, having everything organized in like a spreadsheet, or I don't know what, that just works for me. It could be like it's probably like apps and stuff that do that nowadays and all that kind of gear, but the spreadsheet works for me, and also meditating as well on a daily basis really helps.
Yeah. I don't know. The Ultimate Organizer sounds like the title of your first book. All right, dude. So that's awesome. I want to switch tack a little bit now and actually get to talk a bit more nuts and bolts for copywriting, because that, of course, is your thing, or one of your things. And so, I guess, like most people out there, aren't natural writers. You know what I mean? It's not sort of thing you kind of have any formal training in or anything like that, and yet you've got a business and you've got copy on your site. So there is an element, at least in the beginning, where you do need to write, right? And that can be, I think, a difficult prospect for a lot of people to get themselves into and to get their head around. What sort of mindset or preparation do you think people can do to sort of get them in the right, frame to write decent copy in the first place?
I think a really good place to start, John, is by always having the customer at the front of your mind, and by that I mean thinking about like kind of what's in it for the customer. So when you're like thinking about a particular product or you're sort of looking to write copy, think about, okay, what does this product provide and what does it do, and what benefits are there for the end customer. I think when you get into that frame of mind, then I know for me personally, copy kind of just rolls out of you, because when you're thinking about the customer and what the product does, that's when you basically start writing benefit-driven copy, and that's what copy is pretty much all about to a large degree. It's all about, okay, well, what are the benefits and how does this product serve this particular person? So I think you've got to really think about that, because honestly, a lot of people don't really, and people may dispute this with me, but a lot of people don't really give a crap about your brand. They don't really give a crap about who you are. They want to know what this product does for them. So, I know you've got brands like Apple and, I don't know, like Porsche and stuff like that, where obviously they're more sort of image-driven brands that people associate themselves with. But a lot of the high-ticket stuff that we're doing, we don't really have that cachet of like an image-driven brand. So the power that you do have is to really show someone exactly what this product can do for them, how it's going to make their life better, how, when they get this product, their friends are going to be jealous, and so copy is very much about that emotional side of things, because people buy on emotion and justify with logic. So
Right.
that's why Porsche sells so many cars, and that's why Apple sells so many phones. Porsche may not be the best cars around or anything like that, but they've got that image of being that cool, sexy sports car, and that's how they sell their cars. Because it's like, if you're in a Porsche, then you've kind of made it. Like you're a wealthy person, you're cool, you're hip, blah 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 blah. And so that's what you've got to think about with your copy. And it doesn't matter if it's a dining chair or a chandelier or whatever it might be. Like, there's always benefits to a particular product and what it does for the client, and why your product is better, and why someone should choose you over the competitor next door.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. I mean, I think no understanding your customer and what's driving them to be on your site is, I think it's a fundamental process to go through it and actually map that out on a piece of paper. Like, write it down. What does the customer look like? I often talk to it, and I don't know if you agree with this, but how I talk to it with people is, your customers on your site, or they're looking for products that are on your site because they've got a problem they're trying to solve, right? And that problem leads to a desire for X thing, and it's the solution. Like, the solution is the benefits for the customer. That's basically the benefits that product provides for the customer is the solution to their problem. And so that's how I often start thinking about it as well. I think about, like, what problems do people have that this product is going to solve for them.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, that's what you are when you're selling this kind of gear. You are a problem solver. Like you said, someone's got a problem, they've come to your site, whatever that problem may be, and they're looking to sort of solve that problem by buying X product. So you've basically got to show them how this particular product does solve that particular problem that they've got, and that's where direct response copy comes into it, and that's where you start writing a lot about the benefits of it. And if it is a dining chair, how the fabric's easy to clean and how it's soft, and how the chair is very sturdy, and it's made of this particular wood which is extra sturdy, and it's handmade by an 80-year-old gentleman in a factory in India, and it's so, like, it's very easy to create a story and really start writing benefit-driven copy if you, like we've just talked about, start thinking about it from a problem-solving point of view, and thinking about the customer and what's in it for them, and what this product is going to do and how it's going to make their life better.
Yeah, cool. And so if you need to, obviously being able to do that starts with a good understanding of your customer. How do you approach that? Like, either in your e-commerce business now, or maybe even in your time with Agora, because of course I would have to assume that that's a process that they're pretty focused on. Like, they know who the target is for their sales promotions pretty in some detail. Any tips for people around getting to know their customer better?
Yeah, look, I think one big thing for me is to definitely go to kind of where your customer hangs out. It could be in forums, and sort of something like that. Go to your competitor's website and have a look at their Q&A. Like, what sort of questions are some of these customers asking? What are some of the feedback they're getting? What are some of the complaints that they're getting about particular products, and like, how can you resolve those particular complaints? You find them on, like, websites like productreview.com or whatever that sort of website is. Like, type in, if you sell similar gear to, like, say a Harvey Norman or a JB Hi-Fi or something, like, type in the product name and see if there's a competitor or something like that comes up where they do have a few product reviews. Have a look at those reviews and see what people are sort of saying, and what their feedback is. There's normally always some kind of nugget in there. Like, someone, even with a favorable review, someone will say, look, this is a great product, but I wish this would happen, or I wish you could do this with the product, or I wish this was a feature, or sort of something like that. So if you've got products that can kind of solve that particular problem as well, or maybe you've got the product that's similar, that does solve the problem that they're actually talking about. Maybe highlight that within your copy and things like that. But it's also definitely having a look on and sort of coming up with your avatar as well. Your sort of ideal client. What do they look like? How old are they? What are their interests? Where do they hang out? What kind of jobs are they in? Are they sort of white collar workers, blue collar workers? And you can find a lot of that online by just doing your research properly and just sort of having a look. And like I said, kind of going to websites where your ideal clients do hang out. Because then when you've got that information, writing copy is a lot easier because you kind of know who you're writing to, which is obviously very important. So I know, with Agora, particularly around their sort of financial services business, and I don't want to sort of come across as like ageist or anything like that, but basically they're writing to old white men. That's their ideal client. It's like guys who are either retired or close to retirement. They're either got shares, they may have a quite a sizable sort of super built up. They're looking to make some more money either now or in retirement. And one of the best and sort of easiest ways to do that, to some degree, is to sort of start, getting into the share market. And that's who all their products, for the last 5-6 decades, they've been writing to white old men. Like that's kind of who they've been writing to, who are kind of retired, but that's their ideal client. They've obviously done a lot of research on that, but they know intimately who their target market is. So once you actually do that, it becomes a lot easier to write copy to that particular client and to that ideal client to actually convert those people a lot easier as well.
Yep. Awesome. Cool. All right. So if somebody's getting in the mood, they've done that work, they've got a good understanding of their customer, and it's kind of, they've got the product there, they've got this, they know about the product and what it does, specifications, all that sort of thing. And it comes down to, putting words on the page, as it were. Can you sort of recommend a simple framework, like for people who are listening to this, that they can, who probably, like most people, probably feel a little bit lost with copywriting? Is there kind of like a simple framework that people can take away from this that they can kind of apply to maybe any product to, churn out a decent piece of copy?
Yeah, definitely, John. So one sort of framework that was drilled into me at Agora when I first started is something they call the 4 Ps. And those 4 Ps being promise, picture, proof, and push. Promise is basically where you come out with, like a big sort of fantastical claim around your product. Like, this is going to be this product's going to change your life. That may sound a little bit cheesy, but basically this is where we sort of start getting into the sort of benefit sort of driven side of things with copy. So you're making a promise about your product changing the person's life, how it's going to make their life better, life easier, or life simpler, or something like that. So you make a big promise. Picture which is the second P, is you basically start talking. You basically start writing copy that makes that promise sound more real. And what I mean by that is that you start using words like if you get this product, buy this product now, once you get this product in your hands. So basically future pacing that particular copy, but making it sound like they've already got it, like this product's already in their hands, they've already got it, and basically painting a picture, which is obviously what picture stands for, painting a picture of this product and, again, how it's going to make their life better. So first P, again, making a big promise. Picture's kind of painting that picture of what that promise entails, kind of expanding a bit more on the promise and what it's going to look like. The third P is proof, and that's where you basically come into the sort of facts and features around that product, and also benefits as well. And proof, exactly what it sounds like. Now the proof is backing up all those claims you've made about why this product is so fantastic and why it's going to change their life. What's the proof behind that? So that's where you start getting into, again, the features of a product. I know it's, again, going back to our dining chair example, it's like stain-resistant fabric and The wood is like this, hard wood, and it's very stable, and it's going to last a lifetime. So that's where you start bringing in all those features, but turning them into benefits and showing them why that particular feature is going to benefit them in the long run if they buy this product from you. Push is simply pushing them towards the close. It's where you start getting into your calls to action. Scroll up now and add this product to your cart. You get all this. All this is packed into this particular product. It's only going to cost you X dollars today. So add it to your cart now. So that's where you start sort of really getting into that call to action side of things. So that's the 4 Ps: promise, picture, proof, and push. And it's kind of a really simple framework to get into. I know I still write all my copy, basically, particularly my e-commerce copy, to that framework. Again, that's kind of how I'm writing copy, or how I wrote copy then, and it's how I'm writing copy now. But that's definitely, and it's a proven formula. It's worked for like 6 decades or something like that. So that's what I recommend. That's what I recommend people go with, something like that. And I think once you've got that framework, it just makes it easier. It's like, okay, well, in this section, I've got to write this style of copy. This section, I've got to write this style of copy. And also make sure you sort of break up your copy. You don't want huge chunks of copy, because that tends to make it look very hard to read on the eye. Break up your copy, add in some bullet points of like key features, add in, subheadings, H3s or H4s or whatever they might be, to kind of break it up and make it easier to sort of read on the eye. Because when you get that big sort of massive, just this huge chunk of copy like this, people just look at it and go, no, I'm not even going to bother reading it because it just looks too hard.
Yep.
So yeah, break up the copy and use the 4 Ps, and you'll start writing really cool copy.
Yeah, nice. Okay, and it's a great it's a catchy thing, the 4 Ps. I think I follow a similar sort of framework. It just doesn't sound anywhere near as groovy as that. So I want to put some of those bits apart a little bit, just so that people understand them properly and what's going on there. So
cool.
The promise, the first bit. I mean, I guess that kind of, you kind of starting that off with a bit of a headline, yeah, and it's got to be a big thing, but it's still like, it's still actually got to be something you can deliver on, right?
Well, yeah, you don't want to make up lies or anything about that. It's obviously got to be grounded in reality. It's just, and the promise can be as simple as just your initial headline, like this chair is made from this U-Butte fireproof fabric, and it's going to change your life. Again, may sound a little bit cheesy, but if that's true, and you can prove that within your copy that it is fireproof, it's this U-Butte fabric that's you can't burn, you can't stain, and things like that, then that's your promise right there, because you're promising something that's a big claim. It's a big benefit-driven promise. And like I said, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to try and sort of spread a promise across 200 words. It literally could just be your initial headline, just with the one big benefit that you think you should lead with, and just go with that. So that's what your promise can be, as simple as that.
Yeah, cool. And psychologically for the customer, why like, is there a reason why starting with a big promise like that is important? Like, what does it do when somebody's on the page and they see that? What do you think it does?
Copy is always about getting someone to read the next line of your copy. Like a sales letter, like the headline's designed to get you to read the opening paragraph. The opening paragraph is designed to get you to read the next paragraph. So what you're trying to do is it's sort of setting up what some copywriters call the sort of slide of copy, the slippery slide of copy, where so what you want to do is with that promise is you want to, again, touch on a benefit, but also pique enough interest in them that's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to keep reading. Like, what's this all about? I haven't kind of heard this about this particular product before, or maybe they've been to a competitor's website. It's like, oh, well, the guy on the other website didn't sort of really talk about this product in this way. I'm going to keep on reading. And then your picture copy is where you're sort of painting that sort of picture, and that is meant to then lead on to getting them to read the proof part of the copy. So copy is always about, it's always about getting someone to read that next line of copy. And that's why you want to sort of lead with a big benefit that you think is going to attract attention and pique someone's interest to keep on reading your product description as well.
Awesome. And then on the proof side of things, I was thinking this is probably one of the bits, like most people, this is actually what they have in their product descriptions, right? It's kind of just a list of features, but it's just that, like, you know, like this, you know, this phone is black or something like that, you know, black color or something like that. Like, but I think a lot of people struggle with the concept of having like a like sort of benefit-driven feature statements. What does that actually like? What does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, so features are always the main difference between benefits and features is basically that the feature is just what the product does. A benefit is what it does for the customer. And that's what I was going back to saying before, is that copy is all about, obviously, it's all very much benefit driven, and that's always about thinking about the customer. So when you're looking at a particular product and you're sort of wondering how you write a description about it, or maybe you've got some copy from a supplier and the copy just absolutely sucks, and you obviously want to, you know, make sure that you change that copy around. It goes back to thinking about the customer and okay, so these are the features, you know. And it goes back to what I was saying before. You know, it's got vinyl fabric. Okay, well, what's the benefit of, okay, vinyl fabric's obviously the feature. That's kind of what the product does. What's the benefit of vinyl fabric or vinyl material to the customer? Well, straight off the top of my head, vinyl is generally pretty easy to clean. It doesn't stain. So you can talk about, in terms of talking about the benefit to that, is that, hey, it's vinyl material, it's covered in vinyl material, it's extremely easy to clean. All you've got to do is get a damp cloth, wipe it down, and it's going to look like brand new. Hey, guess what? If you've got kids, you don't have to worry about your kids staining these chairs. Again, all you've got to do, simple spray down, and it's going to look like brand new. So there's always a benefit to a feature. And I've talked to people about this before, and people say, like, I've got this feature. There's just no way there can be a benefit to it. There's always a benefit, and it can sound like it's just listing it all out. And some of them will sound absolutely ridiculous. Like, it's just like no one's going to believe that. But there's always a grounded, believable benefit to a feature. It's just about extracting those and pulling them out. And you don't have to write forever and a day. You don't have to sort of come up with, like, I don't know, like, you know, 30 sort of benefits. It could be just 3 or 4 is enough to basically expand on those benefits. And that's all you need for a particular product, to actually write that description. But it's got to be benefit driven, because, again, it always goes back to people making their buying choices based on emotion. It's all about emotion. So if you can write emotional, you know, benefit driven copy, which is what we're talking about here, you're basically tapping into those emotions, and you're hitting those hot buttons that those people may not consciously sort of think about. When they read it, they go, yeah, that's me. Like, that's the problem that I've got. Yeah, this guy knows me. Like, and that's what leads to that buying decision. They're like, I'm going to go with this guy because he's talking my language. He basically knows what I want. And add to cart and sale. Yep.
Yeah. I love it, and it's really funny. And we think about how brains work. This is going off on a bit of a science tangent, but I was talking about this with our friend Isaac Smith the other day on a completely different topic, talking about habits. But actually, our emotions are driven by the same part of our brain as habit forming is, and it's the subconscious part of our brain, or what some people call the reptile part of our brain. And most of us think that when we decide to buy something, that's actually a conscious decision, like that we've come up and we've thought about it really hard, and logically this is the right thing for us to do, and we're going to buy this product. But the reality is that your brain, your subconscious brain, made the decision to buy the product before you had the logical thought to buy it. And that's because you felt emotion, that something about that product triggered emotional thought in your brain, which drives that buying decision. And then your prefrontal cortex, which is where you do, you know, your logical thinking, actually convinces itself that, yes, that was the right emotion, even if it completely wasn't. And this is how we rationalize bad decisions, right, for ourselves, or purchases that maybe we shouldn't have made. It's really amusing. And what I love about this, the promise picture proof push thing, is that it follows that. So it's about, it triggers that emotional response first with that, big promise, and then painting a picture, and then it sort of fills that in and gives the brain that sort of logical bit with the proof section and the push as to why, it kind of locks in those emotions that will be driven by that process of painting a picture and talking about the big, emotional promise of the product. So I think that's
correct.
Really cool.
Correct. And that's what it's all about. It's sort of it's framing, it's making that promise, framing the picture about how it's going to look, and then backing it all up with proof, because people will read it, and then when you're making something sound so fantastical, your normal logical responses are going, nah, this doesn't really sound right, and like you've got doubts in your mind. But then when you back it up with proof, you back it up with factual evidence, people go, oh, okay, cool, all right, so that is true, all right. So when you make it sound believable, again, people get that they're inching closer towards that buying decision, hopefully buying from you.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a big question here. I mean, that's a fantastic framework, and absolutely people should use it. Like I say, I mean, for me personally, it's pretty much the same thing that I do. Never had that great name for it, but that's kind of what I learned as well, going back a few years with copywriting, and I think it definitely works. So follow it along. But look, these days I think in marketing, everything's about, everybody talks about having great images, and video is super important, and all of that sort of stuff. Which of course it is. I mean, it's great, great to use all of those different sorts of ways of representing and demonstrating your product. Is copywriting still a thing? Like, really? If we've got all these advances, I mean, copywriting's been around forever, right? Like, it comes back from direct mail, and even before direct mail, back to, stuff being printed in newspapers, 100 years ago or more. We've got all these new ways of, wowing people. How does copy fit into that, do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's you've just got to look at Agora now. I mean, they're still going strong 6 decades later, and all they do is write direct response copy, because that's, people respond to it, again, because it's they've come up with a system that taps into the emotional side of a buying decision that basically gives people what they want. So copy is 100% still relevant, and I know just from feedback with my business is that I've won a heap of sales because someone's looked at like a competitor's website and looking at the same kind of products, they've come to my website and hit me up on a chat app or something like that. They've gone, oh, Blake, like I'm going to buy with you because I went to X competitor and they just weren't sort of telling me what I wanted. Like I've read your copy and you've explained this way better, and now I understand this, and I had a lot of questions about this, and you've explained it all within the copy, and that's why I'm going to basically buy from you. So copy is definitely still relevant. Copy definitely still works. Like I said, you've just got to look at Agora and kind of what they do. All the big guys in the marketing world as well, like your Ryan Dices and all those kinds of guys, they all use direct response copy. They've all been trained in direct response copy. So even now, like every big name that that's in marketing, even you, John, like all your sales letters for BSGR, like that's all direct response copy. So direct response copy definitely still works. It 100% works in e-commerce. And I just know from working on my store, working on a couple other stores where I've written copy for, that once you actually, start writing in that format and writing quality copy, I've seen conversion rates just like skyrocket, like hundreds of %, purely because we fixed up copy and gone from like the supplier's like 100 words to expanding it out to like say 800 to 1,000 words of like direct response copy. And I've had clients that have had doubts about it. They're like, oh, no one reads that much copy. Of course they read that much copy, because if they're interested in it, they're going to read it. So when people say long form copy doesn't work, it's just complete and utter garbage. Like I just don't believe that at all. And my, my track record of selling millions of dollars worth of products, and now with my own store, proves that's not the case, because I've got product where my product descriptions are like 1,200 words. And people buy those products, and they buy those products in droves as well. So, of course, people will read long-form copy. But I've gone from, again, having clients of like having 100 words of copy. We've expanded it out and written 800 to 1,000 words of benefit-driven copy. And overnight, basically, their sales have just skyrocketed. So copy definitely still works. It's always going to work. It's always going to be relevant in marketing. And again, you've just got to look at all the big guys who are mega successful in the marketing side of things. They all use direct response copy.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if all of us have probably been on webinars before, right? Some marketing guy is trying to see something. You're going to go to a webinar first, watch it, and then you're going to buy something. A webinar is essentially just a sales letter, right? All they do is write out a webinar script like a sales letter, and then the webinar, they're really just reading it off an autoprompter. They can put that on a page and it would still sell, right? So, like, to be clear, I'm with Blake. I think, copywriting is still a massively important thing in 2021 and beyond, particularly if you're selling high-ticket products. So that's the thing. I think with really low-ticket products, comparatively, maybe it's a little bit less important. But for high-ticket products where you've got a really high bar to that person making a decision, you've got to go the extra mile. And if you go the extra mile, and as Blake mentioned, most of your competitors won't. So if you put the effort in, you actually get a competitive advantage here in your market when you're selling the same product as other people. Absolutely. And I think that's another, aside from just the fact that you're going to persuade somebody to take the action you want them to take, you're also going to stand out as being more helpful to your customer in their mind. And, that's ultimately what I believe is, we're in business to help people.
Yeah, correct. I think, again, because we're in the high ticket game. So we're talking about, people, putting through a credit card number for like a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 product. Like the other day I sold like a $25,000 product. And that's, again, the copy for that was obviously, again, it was long form copy. It was the direct response copy that we talked about today. And there's a couple of different competitors they could have bought from it. They've come from me because I laid out all those benefits. I showed them what was in it for them, and they've obviously come through me for those particular reasons. So yeah, it's definitely still relevant. And like you say, it's you're making the buying decision easier for someone. You're actually helping them out. And that goes for product descriptions. It goes for collection copy as well. When we're talking about actual collection copy, a lot of I know this for a fact. Like a lot of people that have high ticket dropshipping stores, if they haven't got collection copy now, a lot of their competitors don't have collection copy either. If you do collection copy, long form collection copy, again, you're helping someone. You may be talking about a broader segment of your product range, but that's really important too. And obviously, for SEO, it's important and things like that. Different discussion, but you're helping someone out, and that's what it's all about as well.
Yeah, awesome. So I actually just had a question come in from Romain. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Good to see you here. He asks, do you have an issue with Google Shopping with long copy? So in the instance, I think you were mentioning where you have, say, like 1,000 or 1,200 word, description on your product. Does that cause any issue with Google Shopping? Well, my answer would be no. So in the shopping interface, Google will truncate a description that long, but it won't affect your actual performance in the ads, right? So Google will still crawl that whole description, and it will still make use of it for determining, what search terms that description that product can be matched to, because of course the product description is the second most important piece of data from your feed that Google uses to match your products to individual search terms that are made by your potential customers. The first most important, of course, being your product title. So it won't display the whole thing in the shopping interface, but of course it doesn't really matter, because if somebody reads the first few paragraphs, what are they going to do? They're going to click the ad, go through to your page, and there they can consume the whole deal. So you're not trying to drive the decision to buy in your ad. That decision to buy is driven by your site. Your ad is just driving the decision to click on your ad, right? To visit your site, to learn more, and of course then to make the purchase. So I think it's fine for Google Shopping. Obviously, I mean, if you write copy, I guess another question that might come up for people is what's the intersection here with SEO, search engine optimization, which of course relies heavily on the content on your page. If you go out and put effort into copywriting, one, you're going to be writing unique content, which is very important for your SEO. And if you write a good piece of copy, it's generally going to be over the length that the minimum sort of word length that Google likes to see on a page, which is usually at least 300 words. And you're also going to be talking in the customer's language, right? You're going to be talking to a customer, your customer, who is the person who's making the searches on Google. So the chance that there's a natural chance that you're automatically going to be using the terminology that your customer is going to be searching in Google that may lead to your page ranking for an organic search result. So I kind of actually take the view that as long as you know any rough keywords that you want to rank for, if you write a good piece of copy, you're kind of automatically writing SEO-friendly copy. It's not really two different things for me, I think.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, if again you're writing unique content, if you've got a rough idea what your keywords are, you might have, I don't know, use Ubersuggest or something like that, and you sort of obviously insert those within the copy. Then yeah, you are writing unique content, which we all know Google loves, and in a lot of cases, I know for me in particular as well, is that a lot of my competitors aren't doing that. So I'm ranking quite high for a lot of products quite quickly because I've got unique content there, and obviously Google's picked up on it and crawled it, and I kind of know what keywords I'm sort of trying to target. And I'm not doing anything spammy or anything like that. I'm just naturally via a collection copy or products description copy ranking pretty high pretty quick because it is unique content that Google's crawling, and I'm using those keywords as well.
Yeah, cool, man. That's awesome. I love it. All right, so for people who firstly want to learn more about copy, what's your 3 favorite copy books? If you could send somebody to a resource, I'm putting this on you with no notice.
That's okay.
What would you tell people to read? What comes first in mind for you?
Copy wise, and look, you actually, I don't think you can get it anymore. I think it's pretty much out of print. There's I think it might have just come back into print. The Gene Schwartz, the Breakthrough Advertising. That's a really cool book. Do you have that at all? Yeah, it is back in print, isn't it? I saw an ad on Facebook. Some dude was.
Yeah, so another oldish school direct response copywriter has brought it back out under his own publishing business. Cool. And his name, oh God, it's like over on my bookshelf somewhere. I'm just trying to see it while I'm actually talking. God, what's his name? I'm on his email list. I get it all the time. But yeah, he's brought it back out. It's not the cheapest book. It's about $180 US, I think, to buy it from him.
Yeah. Which is cheaper than what it was. I think for a while there was. I remember looking on eBay. It was like it's going for like $500-600. It was crazy.
Yeah, and those are secondhand copies, of course, as well. Yeah. It was out of print for a long time, but this fella whose name he's an old direct mail guy. Oh, God, I can't remember. Completely escapes me. It might come back to me before the end of the call. Brought it back into print, along with actually quite a few other old things that were out of print as well by other people of Gene Schwartz's sort of era. I'll put links to this stuff in with the video for anybody who's watching and wants to find these things. What else? Look at Romain the legend. He's found it. That's the URL on screen now, breakthroughadvertisingbook.com, where you can go to buy Breakthrough Advertising. Honestly, I've got it. I love it. It's kind of like the seminal direct response marketing thing that you've got to read. I'm
gonna have to buy it because I've got a version. I've got an old crappy PDF version of it that when I was working at Agora, one of my buddies that worked over in the US, he had a copy, and I said, can you just like, I don't know, scan it, photo like copy it or something? But he had a file on his computer that was like a PDF version of it, and it sucked because it's like cut off on some pages and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just a great copy book. Another good book, and this you can't actually buy it, but I've got copies of it, is Gary Halbert before he passed away. He basically put together actually two things from Gary Halbert I'm going to talk about. So one is this binder that I've got, which is basically like pretty much every sales letter that he wrote. I've got these three massive binders that I'm trying to put my hands in front of the camera. Hang on. Like this fat, like three of these massive binders of just all Gary Halbert's sales letters. So you can't really get any more, which doesn't really do anyone watching the call any good. But his other book is called The Barone Letters, which is basically, it was a book that Gary Halbert wrote while he was in jail. He got caught up in some pretty shady stuff back in the day and got sent to jail for a couple of years. And while he was in there, he basically wrote this book to one of his sons, and he outlines it's like a brain dump of everything that he knows about direct response copy, but it's also kind of his like life story and almost like a biography of kind of how he got started. And like a few people watching probably have at least heard the name Gary Halbert, hugely famous direct response copywriter. And he's kind of one of the main guys who like started a lot of like the direct mail stuff, or one of the big pioneers in direct mail. Basically came up from nothing, was basically broke and turned into this massive like direct response copywriter, and became very wealthy off the back of it. But anyway, the Barone Letters. So yeah, it was a book that he basically wrote while he was in jail, and just outlines his whole system. Outlines like his sort of tactics, techniques, strategies for writing copy. It's a really cool book, so definitely grab a copy of that one. On top of that, pretty much anything. There are some books that Agora has written that are on Amazon. If you type in like Agora into Amazon, like any of the sort of books, they've got a couple of like training type books, and like, I think one's like how to write leads. So a lead is what we call like the leading copy for a sales letter. It's like the headline and the sort of first couple of pages of copy. How to write leads is a really cool book. I reckon that's about it, to be honest.
Nice.
For the starting sort of copy library.
Yeah, cool. And the fella whose name I couldn't remember, Romain's helpfully pointed out, his name is Brian Kurtz.
Oh, Brian Kurtz is doing it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I should give him the props for that, for bringing back to advertising, as well as he's got some other things that he offers as well from some of the old direct response sort of marketing guys. He himself is very good. I mean, for all of these things as well, if you want to see good copywriting in action, just sign up for some of these people's email lists. Get on an Agora email list. Your inbox will get slammed with 1,000 emails, but they're all sort of written in the direct response style. So if you want to see how this stuff translates into email to influence your own email marketing, just sign up for people's email lists, and you'll see it in action, right? Because it's not the complete thing with email, but you'll certainly get some good pointers around how you can produce email copy. But we talked a lot about sort of older school email, like direct response marketers and guys from back before there was even an internet and that sort of thing. And I think a lot of people today think, well, why would I want to listen to like some old guy and what he said? Like, how is that still relevant and that sort of thing? And I think, you should, because the thing that hasn't changed in the time since those books were written is us. Really, people. Our brains still work the same way, and copywriting is all about persuading a human being, and working with their emotions and the way their brain works. And while we think we might have come a long way in that time, fundamentally how our brains work, it's exactly the same today as it was 50 years ago. And so the principles that, guys like, Gene Schwartz and others wrote about are still 100% accurate and applicable today, and very much so for e-commerce. And they really did it so well that it hasn't been necessary for anybody to or possible for anybody to do it any better since, really, I think.
Yeah, totally agree. It's like I said, it's been working for, since the early 1900s, and so for over 100 years, and it's worked. It's always going to work. But you do hear people come out from the woodwork from time to time saying direct response is dead or email marketing is dead and blah blah blah. It's all crap. It's going to be around for as long as we're around. As long as people know how to write direct response copy, they're going to be able to sell stuff with it. And as like high ticket dropshippers out there that are watching this video now, once you start tapping into that, and once you start writing halfway decent copy, then I think you'll definitely see the results, and that'll be a lot more conversions and a lot more sales coming through your store, because you're writing good content, you're writing copy that actually speaks to someone's emotions, and you're actually solving someone's problem.
Yeah, fantastic. Look, on that note, I think we'll start wrapping this up, my friend. But of course, before we jump off, how can people get Blake Sterling's help? So I know you do freelance copywriting, and if somebody wants to work with you further on improving the copy for their business, how can they do that, and how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can. So my email, my sort of work email is, and it's a big one, so I'll send this through to John so John can send it out, put in the post, but it's blakesterinvestments.com. So BLAKESTER investments.com. Blake at. And yeah, just sort of hit me up with requests that you may have around writing copy for your store. I will say right from the get-go that I'm obviously not cheap because of my track record and experience. So I think to make it worth it, your store would need to be sort of close to or sort of hitting six figures a month. If you're just starting out, I'm probably going to cost a little bit too much. I'd sort of recommend taking some of the advice that we talked about on the call today. I'm still happy to have a chat and sort of point you in the right direction. But for people who actually want me to work for them and actually write copy for their store, you definitely want to be having a decent turnover, so it's actually worth it for you as well. But yeah, contact me on that email, and I'm sure, again, John's already typed it in, and that's correct, yes. So just hit me up on that email, and yeah, I'm happy to have a chat, and we can talk about writing product descriptions or collection copy, or even like email marketing. Obviously very experienced with the email marketing side of things too. So, if you want to write, I don't know, like a 30, 40, 50 email sequence, I can help you out with that as well. And we can go from there. So just hit me up on that email, and we'll have a chat.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. And of course, Blake is also in my Facebook group, the e-commerce tribe. So if you're a member in there, you'll be able to find him in there, tag him on a question or something like that. I'm sure he'd love to answer your questions. If you're not in that, just get onto Facebook and search the e-commerce tribe. And of course, you'll be able to join. So Blake, thank you very much for being here today, mate. I really appreciate your time and your willingness to share your experiences and your knowledge. And yeah, super happy to hear your success so far with your dropshipping experience.
No problems, mate. Thank you very much for your time, and yeah, just thank you in general for what you do, because yeah, if your group wasn't here, then I probably wouldn't be talking on this podcast today about high ticket dropshipping.
Nice one. And of course, guys, this episode is brought to you by Build, Sell, Grow, Repeat, which is my e-commerce marketing group coaching program. If you're looking to grow your e-commerce business in 2021 and beyond, definitely check it out at https://thing buildsellgrowrepeat.com/learn-more. You find a link in the show notes. But with that, we'll leave you here and see you on the next episode of E-commerce with John.